Okay, the stream is live now. I'm going to make you host back again.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kim. I'm going to also make you the co-host so you can assist Bob through the class.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll give people a few minutes before they get on. What I noticed, Kim, is I don't think people see chat in Zoom until after they join the meeting. So anything that's posted in chat to people in the meeting before they join, I don't think they can actually see it, but I'm not positive on that. So you might have to repost your introduction a second time, okay?
Yes, I'm actually sending the message like before, or I mean after 15 minutes after you started, 5 to 15 minutes.
Sure.
So that they can actually see it. Yeah. Sometimes there are also participants who uses their mobile phone and iPad, and they're not really checking the chat. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
unlike participants who uses the desktop or the laptops, they
Right.
can directly
Right.
see it.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing, if you is there any way you can put the names of the attendees in alphabetical order at all before you post it on Slack?
Oh, okay. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah, that would help because the way we see them in the dashboard is we see them in alphabetical order by last name, first initial, last name. So it's easier to check that way to see who's gotten in. And unfortunately, I know some people don't use their name or don't give us their full name. So I know when we switch over to the new software, I think that will help a lot.
Thank you so much for suggesting that. I'll do that moving forward.
Great, great, thank you. Okay, it looks like we've got some people joining. So let me start admitting people and
Okay, don't forget to click the record button. By the way.
yes, I think I'll do that right now that you mentioned it. Thank you. I put a big Post-it note up to record and that helps me sometimes too.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Welcome, everyone. I see some people that are taking this again from me. Okay, see a few people that are familiar, some names. Akua, you've got a shark behind you.
Yeah,
all right.
I finally got my video when I went and bought a new laptop that can handle the fast.
Is that what it needed, was just a faster computer for you?
My cell phone wasn't fast enough. My desktop wasn't either.
Okay, great, great. Well, I got a treat for you. I saw you were signed up for the class and I said, you know, I'm gonna set up my green screen for Akua and show her what differences it makes with a green screen, because sometimes it makes a little bit of difference. We'll take a look at it. So I'm actually using a green screen right now, and we'll take a look at it with and without green screen support so that people can see what this actually does, if it's worth doing or not. But that looks great with the sharks in the background.
Yeah, I love it. I had invited some other people. I'm trying to see if they're in here yet.
Okay, okay. We had, there were about, I think 45 or so people that signed up. Usually we get about 50 to 75% of the people. Other things come up. It's springtime and, you know, the weather where I am in Seal Beach here today, it's like in the lower 80s. So it's really nice weather. It's people are doing barbecues today and other things like that.
Well, I see two of them. Connie is here, but her camera isn't on. And the other guy's name is Bill, but I don't see him in there yet. I'm looking in the participants.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great. Hi, Connie, Chico, Mignon. Is that how we pronounce it?
Like, yeah,
Mignon?
just like filet mignon.
Filet mignon, okay, okay.
My
Kathy,
favorite.
great, great, thank you, okay. Henrietta, okay, Hank, I saw earlier, I think. Okay, a couple of people coming in, so we're gonna get started. Zoom virtual backgrounds. What we might do is I have a teaching assistant on the call with us today, Kim. She's from Get Set Up, and she might mute everyone just because we sometimes pick up some feedback and noise, and that can be interrupting. If you were in a live classroom, I'd ask you to put your phones on silent mode and everything. So she'll be there on the line in case you can always find her in chat, or you can send an email to help@getsetup.io. We are recording and we are live streaming. So let me go through a few introductory slides that, and then we'll start opening up for questions and see what kind of issues and challenges and questions people have around Zoom virtual backgrounds, and go through some material and highlight it. So you know a little bit about me. I'm Bob. I'm in Seal Beach, California right now. I was born in the Midwest in Chicago and went through high school there. My dad was a teacher and a principal in the Chicago public school system, and we would come out to visit my grandmother every summer for summer vacation, and we drive out Route 66. And I said, I gotta go to the West Coast when I get old enough to do it. So I came out here to go to college. Met my wife, you know, we started a family. I worked in the tech industry. And since about 2007, I've been teaching adults about technology and trying to make it a little bit easier for people to understand. So sometimes technology people make technology more difficult as opposed to easier. And so I always believe in trying to make it easier. Welcome for joining us today on virtual backgrounds for Zoom for beginners. You know, it helps if I can see you wave your hand. I do pay attention to the video. I see you in chat. And you know, if you know how to use the reactions buttons on Zoom, that's great too. You can get a recording of this class after class, send an email to help@getsetup.io with the name of the class. If you're joining by live stream, we do encourage you to join Get Set Up. It's free to set up an account at getsetup.io and join us for a class. You can see how some of the other participants are either able to ask questions. And even though we might conduct training on unmentioned products or services, we're not paid to promote anything specifically. So the beginning agenda for Zoom virtual backgrounds for beginners is we have to figure out whether or not our hardware and software is going to work with this. But we have to change and add virtual backgrounds. We'll take a look at that. I'll walk through some slides first, and then we'll actually do it live. I'll show you on my desktop, I'll show you on my iPad, and I'll show you some of the differences between how the desktop, the smartphone, and the tablet differs. And then we'll take a look at a website or two that helpful. So I think Priscilla, you said you're having volume problems, but I think everyone, Kim can, I think everyone can hear me okay. It might just be the volume on your iPad not being quite loud enough, or something wrong with the Zoom connection. That might be a challenge there. But Kim, maybe you can help her out, or Priscilla out a little bit there, okay? All right, so what kinds of questions are you thinking you were hoping to get answered today about Zoom virtual backgrounds? Shirley, you got, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got one question for you. I have a picture that has printing in the picture, and when I put it on as a background, it reverses the picture.
Okay.
So the printing is backwards.
Okay. Now, is that on your on Zoom? Works a little bit differently on desktops and laptops compared to smartphones and tablets. Are you using desktop?
I'm on a tablet.
You're on a tablet.
iPad.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, we have, I'll give you the answer for that when I show people how to do it on the desktop, but
Okay.
it sometimes happens on tablets, yeah.
And I have another question for you.
Yeah,
When I go to participants and rename myself, I like to put in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, because that's where I'm from.
yeah.
But I have to do that every time I go into Zoom. Is there a way of putting that permanent?
Well, your name is going to be the name you use on your zoom.us account.
Yeah,
So if you can change it in your profile on Zoom in your account on zoom.us. And that'll change it every
Zoom.us. Okay,
time to Zoom.
all right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Connie, you have your hand
Yes.
up?
Yes, I am using a laptop. Can I do the virtual background on the laptop as well?
It will depend on whether your laptop meets the minimum hardware requirements for working with virtual backgrounds on Zoom but it doesn't matter if it's a laptop, a desktop, the free or paid account, or iPad, iPhone, or Android. It just depends on the specific capability your device has in terms of performance.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, anybody else have any questions? And we'll take questions, as we go through the material. And I know some of you are going to go ahead and try things out and get ahead of me, but that's okay too. So we'll go through them, and I'll try and answer everything about that we've come up with so far. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at some slides first, because doing things live on Zoom has its pluses and minuses, because technology can go. Other than magic, how is it done? Well, yeah, that's an interesting question, isn't it, Betty? Yeah, I can appreciate that. It's like if you showed Zoom technology to somebody I'm watching Downton Abbey, and if you showed it to somebody from 1915, and you showed them what we're doing, they'd say, you're a magician. This is magic. This really doesn't exist. Okay. So let's take a look at what you need to use for Zoom for virtual backgrounds. And there are some hardware requirements. So I'm going to mute everybody so we don't get some background. Microphones on cell phones and tablets and computers pick up a lot of noise sometimes. And so they can pick up noise that we don't always that sometimes overrides what I'm saying. Okay, so let me go back here. I want to show you this. What Zoom requires for virtual backgrounds is a certain amount of processor speed and capability. Okay, so that means some models of computers will work with Zoom, but they might not necessarily be able to work with what's called virtual backgrounds. And let me turn on my little drawing tool here so I can draw and show you some things at the same time. Okay, so what we're looking at when we look at the different computer types is we're looking at Zoom on Windows. We're looking at Zoom on, there's my drawing tool. There we go. Okay, we're looking at Zoom on Windows, Macs, Linux, iOS, which is iPhone and iPad, and Android. Okay. And there are a couple of things here. Zoom without a physical green screen, or image only with a physical green screen, video without a physical green screen, and video with a physical green screen. So the first thing we probably ought to figure out is, do we have a green screen or not, right? I think that would be helpful. What do you say? Okay, so let me show you what a green screen looks like. And I'll show you a slide, and I'm going to show you a real physical green screen, okay? So a physical green screen is a piece of green fabric, usually very bright green. And it it makes it easier for your camera to tell the difference between you and what's behind you. So let me get my primitive drawing skills going here, okay? So here's you, okay? And here's your camera on your computer or sitting on top of your monitor. And your camera is looking out at you, but also it might be looking at what you have in back of you, furniture, a bookcase, different items. And your camera is trying to figure out, when you don't use any virtual background at all, your camera is looking at everything and it's showing it on camera, right? It shows you and what's really behind you. The magic of virtual backgrounds is that your Zoom software can kind of tell the difference between you and what is really behind you. And it says, wait a second, I'm going to ignore all of this stuff. I don't care about this. I just want to see Bob. And I'm going to replace this with a picture from my computer. Mountains, lake, flowers, whatever, okay? And so in the software in Zoom, your camera tells the software, hey, this is Bob, or whoever it's looking at, whether it's Kathy or Henrietta or whatever. And it says, ignore what's behind you and replace it with a picture called a virtual background, okay? In TV studios, in motion picture production, things like that, this thing of using a green screen like this is really a green screen. It's a piece of physical fabric, has been used for many, many years because it works. Okay, so what happens is that when you have a physical green screen behind you, it's a little bit easier for your computer in the software to say, oh, there is just one color behind Bob and it is bright green. So I'm going to ignore everything that's bright green and replace it with something else. I'm going to replace what's bright green. But when you are not using a green screen, your software and your camera have to say, gee, is that sofa or bookshelf something we should ignore? What about the back of the chair? What about the glasses? What about hair? What about all these things? It has a lot more decisions to make. And when you give a computer more decisions to make, it needs more power. Okay, so without a green screen is the biggest demand on doing virtual backgrounds. Okay, so that's why there's a difference between using Windows without a green screen and using it with a green screen. That's why it has that difference. So let's take a look at some of these things. Now, the challenge here is you got to know what processor is inside your computer, because that's how they measure performance. So if you look up the model number of your computer, just do a Google search, find a sticker on it, and it'll typically give you a Google search and say, oh, you have an HP model, whatever XY3T, it's got an Intel i5, 2-core processor, okay? That's what you need to know about your computer. You need to know if it's got what speed of the computer, what model of Intel and how many cores and what generation. Now, the generations change every year. Right now, we're in the 10th, we're coming out with the 11th generation. So if you have a 5-year-old computer, you've got maybe a 5th or generation processor. Well, if you bought an Intel i3 and you had a 5th generation, virtual backgrounds probably will work, but if you have anything slower, it won't work, okay? So this is what they're telling you when they say you need a processor that is a certain, it runs at a certain speed. They don't worry about the speed. They tell you it works on these computers. So video needs more. So if you like having a video like Akua, this is her, I think her second time in my class. Akua went out and bought a new computer that would let her run a video of sharks swimming behind her for a virtual background. That's an expensive upgrade, but sometimes it's worth doing if you do a lot of Zoom meetings. So you can see they have this for Windows, for Macs. Generally, a 3 to 4 year old computer will typically work pretty well. And then they have iOS, which is iPhones and iPads. So it has to be an iPhone 8 or newer, an iPad Pro, or a 5th or 6th generation 9.7-inch iPad. But you see iPad minis will not support virtual backgrounds. So there might be a product you have that may not do it. Now we'll take a look at what happens if you just say, hey, is it going to work if I try it out? We'll do that. And with Android, Zoom is a little more particular about the type of Android device you have. You see, for example, like LG model phones are not listed here, and a lot of different models of Android phones are not listed. But typically recent models will work as long as they're one of these brands. That's a pretty technical part of Zoom virtual backgrounds, I know, but I wanted to make sure you knew that some things are just not going to be possible with the hardware if you don't have fast enough hardware. Okay. So any questions about that? I know, and we're going to go through and actually try some things out in a few slides. All right.
On the iPhone, well, I guess mine is an 8, so mine would be able to do that. Probably not my computer, but my phone, I guess would. Never mind.
Okay, no, that's okay. That's okay. It's kind of like, can your car go more than 300 miles on a tank of gas? Well, it depends on the mileage you get and how much fuel you can put in a tank. It's kind of like those questions are the things that we're covering when we cover virtual backgrounds.
Bob,
Yeah.
can you show again on your share screen, or there are other videos that I want, but when I try to put it on my area and in my Zoom for my videos and pictures, it's saying that it's the size is something wrong with the size. I'm taking that as too big.
It's the video file that's too big. I've had that happen with longer. If Zoom only wants a really small or short video, just a few seconds in length. And so if you get a video that's any longer than a certain number of seconds, it will change it. So Carolyn, you're also going to get a link to this web page in the email handout as well. So you can check and see it. Sometimes you may find that you're just using the steps we go through in class. You may find virtual backgrounds are going to work okay too, right? Yeah, but sometimes a video file, if it's too big, it won't work, right? So these are green screens, and green screens do make it a little bit easier for your computer, but there's an option in Zoom settings that you can set where you have a green screen. You only check that off if you have a real physical green screen. That's the only time you would use that. So there's a couple of ways to get to the virtual background settings. Whenever you open up the Zoom app on your desktop or laptop, we're going to go through desktop and laptop first. There is a gear in the Zoom app. You can't do that in the meeting yet, but there's another way to do it we'll be looking at. And then if you select background and filters and settings, and you click on the plus button, that's where you can select virtual backgrounds. If you see none, and it doesn't give you any of the standard images that come with Zoom, I have more here than what's standard with Zoom. But if you just see none, Sometimes that means your computer is not fast enough to do virtual backgrounds, or it may give you a message that tells you that your computer doesn't support virtual backgrounds. And if you try and use a virtual background, it just won't look real good is the problem, but it might work. Okay, if you can click on the plus sign, but you have to find a picture on your computer. Okay, so that's usually one of the harder things, is where is that picture? You don't have to pay extra for Zoom, you know, or and I'm going to show you a website where you can find free photos. So you don't have to have the paid Zoom plan to use virtual backgrounds. It works with the free Zoom plans as well. The other way to set up your virtual backgrounds is to just start a meeting. If you have a Zoom account and you open up the Zoom app, you can start a new meeting anytime just for yourself. Okay, so, and that's another way to get to the Zoom controls. And that's how we're going to see the Zoom settings for virtual backgrounds, because we're in a meeting. And so, but you can start a meeting anytime you want to try things out, to see what it looks like also. And it doesn't cost anything. It's just going to be you, and you can, you know, practice your virtual background settings. When you're in a meeting on your desktop, on laptops or on smartphones and tablets, I'm going to show you a little bit different menu you get to, but on a desktop or laptop, at the lower left-hand corner, you've got a microphone, and it's typically muted unless you're speaking. And then you got a video camera. And in order for you to use virtual backgrounds live on Zoom, you have to turn your video on. But when you see this little tiny arrow that's next to the camera and you click on it, a menu pops up. And I have several cameras. Sorry about that. My mouse triggers a slide change. When you might have several cameras, but you've also got an option that'll say, choose a virtual background. Now, some people have told me that at this point, they get a message that says their computer doesn't support virtual backgrounds. But it might let you try out this option to click on it, okay? And when you click on that menu item, you bring up this screen that shows you in a preview, and then you can click on the plus button or select from some standard virtual backgrounds that Zoom provides. Now, the plus button gives you the ability to add an image or add a video, and you just have to know where that photo is on your computer or that video. Videos are a little harder because they are, you only can put a very short video up there. So like Kua was saying earlier, she's tried some videos, but they say the file's too big. But rarely will you have that problem with an image. Okay, it's usually only with video. And then once you select it, it becomes your virtual background. So that's on laptops, desktops, Windows, Macs. They work the same. Okay, now tablets and phones work a little bit differently. Tablets and phones have a different menu. When you when you're on Zoom on your phone, you have a menu that pops up that shows 3 dots called More. And on iPads, you have a tablet menu with 3 dots that says More up here in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on either the phone or the tablet, it brings up a menu, and one of the menus will be virtual background or backgrounds, and tap that. Now on tablets and phones, it will ask you for permission to access your photos the first time you use virtual backgrounds. It will say, Zoom wants permission to access your photos, yes or no. And you have to say yes, otherwise Zoom can't find any photos. And so when the photos are on your iPhone or iPad, they can be used or your Android phone, they can be used as a virtual background. Now, somebody asked about mirroring. Who asked about reversed? Who said their image was reversed? The text was reversed.
I did, Tom, or Bob.
Okay, Shirley. What happens on the desktop application in Zoom gives you a feature that allows you to flip an image called mirroring, but the iPhone and iPad and Android Zoom do not. So you have to edit the image in the Photos application on your tablet or phone. And there is an option in the when you see an image and you go to edit it, you can flip it and reverse it. But yeah, once you do that, it'll work fine.
I'll try that. Thank you.
Sure. So we'll talk, Mary, about, we'll take a look, Mary, and try it out at a couple of times looking at it. But when you click on the plus button, it should bring up the file menu for your computer that will let you select a file for a virtual image. Okay, so let's take a look, okay? All right, let's take a look at my full screen here to show you. Now, if there's something that's not working right on your computer, it could be, some other technical difficulty, but I know, and sometimes just updating the version of Zoom. If you go to zoom.us and download the latest version of Zoom, that's an important requirement as well, because Zoom does update their software, and sometimes it updates automatically, but sometimes it requires a manual update. So you want to be at the latest version of Zoom for virtual backgrounds, okay? So let me share my whole screen and show you a few things here, okay? So if I share my whole desktop here, you're seeing yourself, right? You're seeing yourself in the gallery here. And what I want to do is find the lower left-hand corner of my Zoom window here. So if I move my mouse to the lower left-hand corner, there's my microphone, there's my video camera, and to the right of that video camera is a little arrow that points up. Most of the time, whenever you see arrows on any computer application or website, it usually means there's something that will pop up if you click it. So if I click on that, it pops up an option, the menu, and the option I can choose virtual backgrounds. So when I click on that, it pops up another screen. Okay, and the screen says is already selected for background and filters. And I actually have a green screen. I'm going to turn off my virtual background. It's a piece of green fabric behind me. And the trick with using a green screen is you want to have the lighting as even as possible behind you. Okay, if I turn off, I have a green screen. It's still a green background behind me. It's just live video that you see, and I have a green background. So if you had a piece of fabric that you wanted to hang behind you for a background, you could do anything you wanted to. Okay, but I actually have a physical green screen behind me, and it makes a little bit of difference. So if I don't have this checked off and I go to my Get Set Up image, you notice when I turn my head from side to side, my glasses sometimes work okay and sometimes they don't. My chair, if you look around my shoulders, the edge of my chair, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. The computer is having to figure out what's really behind me. But if I check off, I have a green screen, things are a little crisper is what happens. And it gives me the ability to manually select the color if I don't. And Zoom automatically detects the background color, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so I could click here and it's automatic and I don't have to worry about it. That's with a physical green screen. So if I choose a different background like this one, you can see as I turn my head from side to side, what's behind my glasses actually is the virtual background. But if I don't use the green screen, it doesn't always work well. So the green screen can improve the quality of your virtual background and make it easier for your software and camera to do the work. Eva says, is a still picture? Yes, if it's a picture behind me, it's not what's really behind me. What's really behind me is that green piece of fabric. It's a piece of fabric. I can touch it. But if I replace it with a picture, it looks like it's pictures, like what weather forecasters use this all the time. Is they're looking at a monitor and they're moving their hand up and down, the screen to show you where something is pointing. It really takes quite a bit of skill to get used to doing that because everything's reversed. Now, on the desktop or laptop, there is a mirror my video button. So if I wanted, my text was reversed like this, I can just click the mirror my video button here. And generally, I prefer not using the green screen. So if I just don't want to set up the fabric, it's easy just to use it this way. And most people find it, if their computer is fast enough, if you have a good webcam, sometimes laptops and desktops don't give you a really good quality webcam. And you want to have a lot of lighting facing you. I have two 100-watt lights on either side of me on my desk, and they're at full brightness. So I'm lit up really well. And sometimes it makes you look better and sometimes it doesn't. It's just a flip of the coin, right? But having yourself a lot of light in front of you makes a lot of difference. So if you have a window behind you or a bright light behind you, that can diminish the ability of your virtual background to work well, because your camera is trying to figure out what's really behind you and saying, I don't want that. I want the picture that you're going to select in this virtual background box. Now, when I'm looking at this box, there's a tiny little plus button to the underneath in the lower right-hand corner here. You can see my mouse circling around it. And when you click on that plus button, it says add image or add video. I know it's small, but that's the way the type is on this. When I go to hover over add image and I click on it, it brings up the files on my computer. So I just have to know where the picture is that I want to use. So if I want to use a picture of, say, the Rose Parade that I took a couple of years ago, I can select it, picture, and I usually keep all of my backgrounds that I use in a folder. I create a folder and I call this backgrounds for, backgrounds class. So it's easy. Yeah, Mom, okay. You have your hand up?
Okay, I forgot to change my name.
That's okay.
If I save the picture I want on desktop, because that way, would that work? Because that way I don't have to look through the whole list.
Yeah, you can save the picture anywhere you want.
Oh,
Okay.
desktop would be all right. Thank you.
As long as you, and I'll show you actually where one is on my desktop. I keep these in a folder on my desktop that I just showed. So if I select this and click open, it's going to change my background to that picture of a float that I took at the Rose Parade. Okay, so all you have to do is find the picture. And as long as you can find the picture on your computer files and select it, you can use it as a virtual background. Now you can see this is with a green screen. Let's change. Let me close this. And if I go back, if I stop screen sharing, so you can see me a little bigger here, this is what it looks like, full image. I'm looking down at my tablet because I'm going to go to the tablet next, but you can see it does a pretty good job of separating everything out. And if I didn't use green screen, I'm going to turn it off for myself here just to show you what it looks like without. This is without a green screen. So I turn on. I have a green screen, and it just is a little bit different, you know, so it just depends on the speed of your computer, the quality of your webcam. You don't have to spend more than $100 on a webcam. Even a $50 or $75 accessory webcam will help sometimes if it's a problem with your laptop or desktop webcam. And good lighting in front of you makes a difference too. So you want to try and avoid situations where you have the camera pointing at a window or pointing at a bright light, and that makes it work better. But finding this, you know, finding a picture is just about going to, let's do this one more time on my desktop. So if I go to the lower left-hand corner, I click on the up arrow next to the webcam, and I choose virtual background, and then I click on the plus button, add image, and let me find a different folder here. Okay. And I'll click on this picture, and it'll change the picture behind me. Okay. So who had their hand up? Betty, you've got your hand up. Could you unmute yourself, Betty?
Okay, hi. Could you repeat those instructions that you just gave, but for an iPhone?
Yeah, I'm going to show you I'm going to show you for iPad and iPhone next. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome. Okay. So any questions about the desk now? Yvette? Go ahead.
So when I, goodness, what was I gonna ask? When I go in and click virtual background, it says none. Do I need to re-download Zoom first?
There
Make sure I
could
have the
be,
latest version.
there could be a couple of things going on. One could be the version of Zoom, but it could be that your computer may not be fast enough to support virtual backgrounds without a green screen. If you click on the I have a green screen button here, it might show you some of the standard settings. So it might just be that, or it might be that your computer processor speed is not going to support virtual backgrounds. But try downloading the latest version of Zoom first.
Okay.
Try that first. That's the least, that's free, and it's the least expensive thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. So let me stop sharing. Pamela, you have your hand up. Go ahead. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, sorry. I have a desktop and I had clicked on to have a virtual background, and I was joined in with a Zoom meeting, and my background was back, but my face was like fading back and forth like a mirror effect or something.
Yeah, yeah. That usually means that your computer is not quite fast enough to make the background feature work.
Okay.
That's usually what.
Thank you.
Okay. And so you could try, I mean, a green screen piece of fabric is $20. So that's one of the least expensive things if you've got a place to hang it or a way to put it up behind you, or just that's one of the least expensive things to do. Another thing to try would be a webcam upgrade, but chances are it's probably the speed of your computer that might be slow, causing that not to work well. Okay, so let me try sharing my iPad screen, because iPhones and iPads work pretty similarly. So give me a minute here, and let's see if I can make this work. Usually it does. Okay, so now I'm sharing my iPad screen. Okay, I can't point very easily with a pointer here, but if you look at the top of what you're seeing here, you should see a join audio, a start video, stop share participants, and a more button with 3 dots on it in the upper right of my iPad screen. If I tap on, whether you're using a phone or a tablet that'll support it, if I tap on more, it brings up a menu. Okay, so the iPad menu and the iPhone and Android menus are a little bit different sometimes. So, but you want to look for something that says backgrounds. Okay, so if I tap on background, it brings up me on my iPad. So this is actually my iPad camera I'm looking at right now. And it brought up the background option. Now, the first time you use it on your phone or tablet, it's going to ask you for permission to access your photos. You need to say yes, because Zoom has to get to your Photos application in order to find a photo. So on iPads, I have a green screen option. On iPhones, I don't. And I can't get my face behind this. This is an image on my iPad that's showing this. But if I tap the plus button, it accesses my photos. So if I wanted to use a get set up photo or a picture, say, of LA Harbor as my background, I tap that in my photos and I tap done, and it changes it to my virtual background. So if I close the screen, now I'm sharing my screen, but my virtual background, it would be that. So again, tapping the more button, tapping backgrounds, whatever it says, it might say virtual background, it might say something else. And then you would just tap the plus button, or if you already selected a picture, this is, I think, a beach. Yeah, I was at Seal Beach the other day, and I was at Huntington Harbor. There's some wetlands there. And there's a picture of one of my son's cats, okay? So, it just depends on what you want to use for your virtual background that you can select it here. But again, you just have to select the photo from your iPhone or iPad or Android photo album. Okay. All right, anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I see some people are trying it out and trying a few things out with virtual backgrounds. And it's just a little bit different. Okay, thank you. If you have to run off, appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know. If you using video, it takes more computing power to do video, but your computer might support it. Yeah, Connie, you have a question.
Well, I've got an Acer computer that I just got last October, and when I clicked on virtual background, it says none.
Okay, I would download the latest version of Zoom.
Okay,
Zoom.us, but just because you bought a new computer doesn't mean it has a fast enough processor.
okay,
Because there, in fact, Chromebooks, for example, you have a Windows computer, but I know Chromebooks just don't have, they don't support virtual backgrounds at all. So
okay.
Chromebooks won't work, but it just depends on what speed your particular Acer is, okay?
All right, thanks for your help.
Sure, you're welcome. All right, so let's see, we got Connie. Let me show you a website where you can find free photos, okay? And let me get that open in my web browser here. There's a couple of websites that are out there. One I like to use, and there is a class I have that I'm doing every so often now on finding free photos on the internet. And so there's lots and lots of resources out there. This is one website called Pexels, PEXELS.com. I'm going to copy and paste that in chat to everyone. It'll be also in the email notes. And I'm looking at chat on another screen right now, which is why I'm turning my head. There we go. Okay, so Pexels has a lot of free photos. And I'm going to change, this is the website. It gives the ability to search. So if I want to search for gardens, because it's spring, right? We're thinking about gardening. I can find pictures of gardens. And these are all free to use. So if I like, gee, this looks like an interesting garden, or I want the butterfly, or this one looks this, okay. There's a little download icon here with an arrow pointing down. I can click on that and it downloads the picture. It brought it to my download folder, and I'm going to just move it over to my desktop. It makes it easier to find. And I will say thanks to Laylesh later. I keep track of my downloads. Now I want to make this photo my virtual background. Well, let me go back to sharing my whole desktop. Okay, I'll go to my desktop. You can see there's pexels in the background. That, oops, I don't want to do that. Okay. Okay, there we go. I think I'm okay. And then I want to go to my video button, click the up arrow, go to choose virtual background. There's my settings window. Click on the plus button, add image. And this image ended up on my desktop. It's called Laylesh Alderwish. Okay, that's the name of the artist. I just click on it and I click open. And it will change my virtual background to a garden scene quickly like that. So now I'm in a garden scene. So you can, the Pexels is a website that gives you access to millions of free photos. So if you're not a photographer or you don't have a picture you want to use for your virtual background, you can find millions of photos, and you can search for them all over the place too. So it's just a suggestion. There's actually a lot of places you can find free photos as well. But if you're thinking, it'd be nice to have a photo for somebody's birthday or celebrate, an occasion, or because you can find photos for organizations. A lot of organizations like nonprofits like the Red Cross and others now have virtual backgrounds that have their logo. So you can download them from those sites as well and use them as virtual backgrounds. Okay, got your hand raised, Mom. Okay. Who has a question?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. How do you know it's your desktop? Because I have trouble finding things there. And when I say desktop, oh, somebody.
I think you got two devices on Zoom. So that's why we're getting some feedback from you. So
I'm hearing a lot of noise. I can't hear you.
Yeah. If anybody that has two devices on their that are connected to Zoom at the same time, we'll get feedback from you if you have two microphones that are picking up the Zoom sound. So finding files, there is a class we do on organizing files on PCs, and that helps too. But remember, if you download something, it's going to go to your download folder. But if you can always put that file on your desktop, and I recommend you create a folder just for backgrounds, pictures you want to use for Zoom. I have a pic folder that I use on my desktop that I save all my background photos in, so that it's easier for me to find them.
When I look for things on my when I save things on my desktop, there is I have something at the bottom of I think that's called a dock, which says desktop. So when I click on that, it shows me all the different things that are there, and that's what I use. Is that would I work with Zoom?
Well, wherever you put the photo, right? I think I'm not sure, are you using a Mac or a Windows PC?
I am iMac desktop.
Okay, On Macs, you can say, if you can drag photos, just drag the photo over to your desktop. Whenever you want to, you can literally click and drag it over to your desktop, and just, I'd recommend you learn a little bit more. Take a look at the organizing files class we have, or the introduction to Mac, because understanding where to put things will help you out. But as long as you can find it, Zoom is just going to open up your folders on your computer for you. You have to know what folder you have the image in that you want to use.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have difficulty in organizing things and finding things in.
You're not the only one. That's a very common.
There's so much.
Yes.
And as we get older, it gets harder to remember.
Yes. Yes, it does. It gets harder to remember. Where did I put that? Right. Particularly when it's a digital file. Olga, go ahead. You got your hand up. What's your question?
Hi. I'd like to know, can you tell me, how do I find out that I have the latest version of Zoom?
That's a good question. Well, let's see. If I'm looking at, if you go to the top, at least on the top of my computer screen, let me try sharing this. I don't usually do the Zoom classes, but let me see if I can share this with you.
I can tell you how to do it. You have to go into the settings of your computer or your iPad that you're using, and go down to the very bottom of your list of settings. Will have Zoom. Just go into that, and it tells you what model you have or what version you have. Model.
Yeah. There's actually I think there's about 3 ways to check it. If you have a desktop and you have Zoom open, if you go to the zoom.us button at the top, you can't see this menu really well, it's small, but there is an option to check for updates. And so you whenever you're logged into Zoom and you go to your Zoom US account on iPhones, iPads, and Androids, most of the time Zoom will update automatically, but on desktops, sometimes you have to manually check for updates through Zoom. I know.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the settings. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is a beginning introduction. I know some people have taken the class again. Some people have, shown their virtual backgrounds out there. Hello?
Yes.
Who is that?
Michiko.
Michiko. Yeah, Michiko.
I with the same setup, same version of Zoom and a PC, I was able to go to select the background, but now when I go, I see only none or blur only.
Okay.
Is
So,
there any
well, you're
settings I have to click?
Yeah, so you don't see the pictures anymore. I'm not sure why Zoom, sometimes people see the standard images and sometimes don't. Sometimes downloading and then reinstalling Zoom, it won't change your settings, but downloading a new version, updated version of Zoom may help that. And they may provide, but I know sometimes people don't see the standard pictures. And so if you download the latest version of Zoom, like Akua had a situation where she was able to add images to her virtual background, but it wouldn't allow her to add video. And so she went and got a computer that let her do that. So there's a little subtleties to that, but Zoom has great.
Yeah, but I was able to do about a month ago with the same setup.
Yeah, I don't know why that might be happening, Michiko. It could be something. The only thing I would do is usually downloading an updated version of Zoom might fix it. If something is changed corrupted with the software is all. So installing an new version of the software sometimes fixes things if it's a problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank
you. Diagnosing problems is very different than teaching people how to use something. Okay, sometimes problems occur that we can't always resolved because they're a problem as opposed to like, something working right.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yeah, who's talking?
Henrietta.
Henrietta, hi.
Hi. How do we know when Zoom updates the chat?
Well, I don't really know the answer to that. I think some of the other instructors on the Zoom classes probably, cover that in the Zoom classes, but you can always just check for an update if you go to zoom.us and check and it'll if you're logged into a Zoom meeting, it'll let you check for an update as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Let me wrap up a few things. We offer a number of Zoom classes on Get Set Up, Zoom for Beginners, Advanced Zoom. We've got a couple of classes we do on virtual backgrounds. Sometimes using PowerPoint, you can actually create a slide in PowerPoint, save it as an image, and make virtual backgrounds that way. And you can use Zoom whiteboard and annotations. We've got some new things you can recommend in our platform. You can recommend classes to a friend if you like it. You want to send them an email or post it on Facebook. You're going to get an email follow up with class notes. If you want a recording, send an email to help@getsetup.io. If you want to offer some feedback or suggestions or just let us know how we're doing, we appreciate that. I read all of my feedback and appreciate it from everyone. And then, you can always invite friends to classes too and tell friends about them now as well. And I think some people have already started taking advantage of that. So we're always looking for ideas for classes, new instructors. If you need any help with Zoom, always send an email to help@getsetup.io. And someone will get in touch with you and help you out. And thank you to Kim for being on our session today as our teaching assistant and helping out a few people to try and resolve some technical difficulties. And hopefully you'll be able to start using Zoom virtual backgrounds and use them more often in more places. Okay. So thank you all for coming and have a great Sunday. Enjoy springtime weather. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having a class on a Sunday. It makes it easier for us because during office hours, we have so many things to do.
Yeah. Yes. It does.
Evening and Sunday hours. Thank you again.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Take care.
Bob,
Bye.
thank
If I
you.
take the advanced Zoom class, am I still there? The advanced Zoom class, in order to learn how to music in the virtual background?
I don't know. I think Donna covers how to play videos, but I'm not sure. There's some advanced Zoom settings on things like that. But some of the people that have learned how to do that, they've just learned it because they've gone, and tried different settings, Zoom classes.
Yes, I would.
Websites.
I'm talking about the virtual background
Yeah.
with the music with the virtual background.
You have to turn on computer sound in order to do that in the advanced settings. So that's in the advanced settings when you share your computer screen. But when you are just there yourself and your virtual background is there, it doesn't play the audio, just does the video. But if you share your screen, if you're the host, you can share your screen and share the video, share the music. But that's only when you're the host and sharing screens.
Thank you.
The audio. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
see you at the next class.
Take care. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.